It's that we cannot live our lives day in and day out, specifically parenting, being ruled by fear. Fear is just a horrible driver. It will never lead you to the outcome that you want it to go.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We've actually had an incredible conversation just now. If you're new, I'm Ray Johnston. This is
Clark.
And Kevin Thompson.
And we are talking about 7 storms hitting every single kid, and we're going to get in and go after these 7 storms. And the first one, Kevin, you've written an entire book on.
Yeah, I think every generation that's ever been raised has had an aspect of fear individually. I think you're afraid. You're growing up, things are changing, you don't know what's going on. Now, I think we live in a unique time where the entire generation of kids are afraid. And they're being raised by parents who are afraid. I don't get the sense that my parents, my grandparents had this great angst over how we're going to raise our kids and all the dangers that are out there. There were elements of it, no doubt. Any new parent feels that. But I feel like all of my peers in life are terrified about the unknown. I think this is the first generation of parents to ever try to hold their kids back from what they perceive to be a darker future rather than pushing them into a brighter future. And then I think
that's good. Say it again.
Yeah. So this is the first generation of parents to ever hold their kids back from what they perceive to be a darker future rather than pushing their kids forward into a brighter future. And so the average parent today thinks that their kid's life will be worse off than their life. This is the first generation of Americans specifically that have ever experienced that. And then what you have is this cycle that's back and forth, that kids are afraid of everything that's taking place. Parents are afraid. Parents are then passing that anxiety on their kids. Kids are passing that anxiety back to their parents. I mean, that's what the whole book is about, is this home that is run by fear. And here's the problem with fear. It doesn't empower us to make good decisions. If you and I, fear can be felt, we can experience it, no doubt whatsoever. But if you and I are primarily making decisions based on fear, we're going to make bad decisions. And I think that's where many parents are today, and kids are experiencing the byproducts of that, is their parents now are making decisions out of anxiety, which causes us to hold our kids back, not to empower them to make decisions, be helicopter parents, those trying to basically clear the way for the child so the child experiences no angst, no consequences to their poor decisions. And really that's the number one storm for me that is hitting our kids today, is they're living in a culture of fear that their parents, instead of helping them through, are actually promoting.
Well, it's illustrated even in the, like, when I grew up, it's the classic. When I grew up in the 80s, my parents would be like, get out of here. And I'd get on my bike and I'd take off and I'd come back at 9 p.m. And I was like 10.
Yeah.
They have no idea whose house am I in? Who am I with? What am I doing? They don't see me. My 10-year-old goes out the door. I'm like, the door just opened? What's happening? And I go and I look out the door. She's just in the cul-de-sac. She's okay. What is that?
No, absolutely.
Why is that?
Chimes on the door.
You're telling me it's my fault.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely your fault, Mark. No, I think this is a post 9/11 reality. I think for our generation, we experienced 9/11 before we had kids or as we were having kids, and we realized how frightening the world was. Technology came along. Now we get notified. Whatever happens, if there is 2 people killed in America today, I'm going to immediately be notified by it,
right,
which now puts us on a constant state of alert of what's going on. Right. And so now we are used to being in this continual contact with everybody, and all these things that we're putting in place to ease our anxieties are actually producing them, because fear begets fear. That's just the reality of the way it goes. And God calls us, thankfully, to a better way, and that is the way of love.
Well, that is good. I had never thought about this in terms of parenting, a book I wrote a while back, I did some research on fear and basically wrote this. This is the most seat-belted, airbagged, peanut-avoiding, gluten-free, sunscreen slathering, massively medicated, password-protected, inoculated generation in history.
That'll preach.
All it's done is scare kids indoors, okay? I mean, there are kids that are 7 years old before they're outside, and it's like the idol of safety has become the number one limiting factor in people's lives. And so like I'll go, hey, we do these massive events, massive mission trips to Mexico, 1,000 teenagers go to Mexico, they learn to serve, all this kind of stuff. And dads come up to me and goes, I'm thinking about letting my sophomore daughter go. Can you guarantee me it will be?
Safe.
It's the only question. They're not asking the question, will it be life-changing? Will it be safe?
So I consider two different homes: the home of the afraid, right, and the home of the brave, because love.
It's
really
funny.
does require brave.
Your whole book is 2 parts.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
What's the difference?
And so the idea is when a home is run by fear, it is built on the foundation of safety. And so what happens is we take a good thing, safety, and we idolize it, making it a God thing. And so now safety becomes the ultimate question. And so we even attribute this into God's will. The idea of we assume that if it is God's will, we're going to be safe. Well, nowhere is that in the New Testament. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it's the exact opposite of that. And yet to the modern parent who is a believer, we can't fathom the idea of sending our kid on a mission trip where there could be any semblance of risk. Now, obviously, whenever it comes to safety, we have to take into account, we have to be wise, good stewards. We're dads, we're pastors, all of those things. But whenever we idolize it, whenever we make safety the ultimate above all other things, we're chasing on a treadmill that we can never stop, because you can eat as healthy as you want to eat. You could still have a heart attack and die, right? You could wear all the seatbelts, drive the speed limit, do everything. A drunk driver could T-bone you, and that'd be it. Safety is not an ultimate goal that we can fully fulfill. And yet, whenever it is the God that we're chasing, we are setting ourselves up now for a life of fear, a life of anxiety. And the better way from that is, rather than idolizing safety, it's discerning it, but then building a foundation of trust, where I trust God, we're learning to trust one another, and I'm empowering my kids now to trust me, to trust God themselves, and to learn to trust themselves in the decisions that they're making.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, like if you say to me, what is going to be more attractive? A parent who has faith and is terrified, or a parent who has faith and is confident and forward moving? Kids are going to want that faith in the long run far more. But I got a question, okay? You got 3 daughters. I have 2 daughters, you've got a daughter, okay? So I was afraid they would meet some loser and he'd derail their whole life. So when I caught them really early, we should probably do a whole session on this. I caught them really early, and I took them out to a fancy dinner, and I walked through interviewing your daughter's date. And I said, anybody that dates, matter of fact, one of my daughters right over there, I said, anybody that dates you, I think they should have lunch with me first. And because I caught them so young, they were like, that sounds good. And
Sign right here, right
and
now.
Then I said,
I know you're 6 years old.
Then I said to my daughters, I said, I'm going to take notes on you. I still have the napkin. I said, what advice would you give a guy that was going to date with you? I mean, they were brutal. I mean, pay for it, stay off your phone, open the door. It was awesome, okay? And so whenever anybody asked them out, for the most part, they would go, yeah, that'd be great. You got to lunch with my dad first, but that'd be great. And my whole theory was, look, if a guy's too wimpy to have lunch with me, he's too big of a wimp for you to date. And they were like, that makes sense. You got to catch them early. Yeah. And I had great conversations with all these guys.
But notice within that what you're doing. You're experiencing
But it was
the fear.
motivated by fear.
No, but you're
So what's
experiencing
the
the fear and you're putting it in proper context, but you're not stopping the dating. You are now allowing, all right, here are the measures I'm going to require for this to happen. And really what's happening in that moment is, not only is that a safeguard for your daughters, you're actually alleviating your fear a little bit. That you know what kind of guy is going to be seated in front of you. So by no means do I think we need to be totally rid of fear. It's not that. It's that we cannot live our lives day in and day out, specifically parenting, being ruled by fear. Fear is just a horrible driver. It will never lead you to the outcome that you want it to go.
So apply that then to what we talked about in the opening session, the story I closed with the social media.
Yeah.
You know, you have this, adults coming in, talking to young girls, making them send pictures of themselves, getting control of them. So talk about this principle that you guys are talking about. Now take it away from you just dating and take it into I'm legitimately fearful of what my kids could get involved with online.
Yes.
So is the solution take their phones, let them not know of technology, as Kevin didn't let his children know that Disneyland existed until last week. I found out.
That's just smart.
So make sure they don't know what the internet is. Take their phones, not let them on social. Don't let them on Instagram. Don't let them on TikTok. Don't let them on Facebook, which they don't want to be on anyway. Don't let them on stuff. Is that the approach? Or What's
fear.
what's the better approach?
So fear is shut it down, isolate them, protect them with everything that we've got, right? Love now shows a different way. Love is I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to protect them in ways that I need to and can. Age appropriate, I'm going to lead them along the way. And there comes a point where they are going to launch out into this world. I know there's some dangers to that, but I've tried to eliminate as much as possible while still empowering them to make wise decisions. That's what love does. Whereas faith is I'm going to protect them at all costs.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm a favor of protecting them as much as you can, as long as it's motivated by what's best for them, not by out of just sheer fear. But what I discovered is this: my son, we're living in Folsom. All of our kids are 6 and under. Our 6-year-old son, we're pretty much like there's a whole bunch of movies we're not going to let these kids see when they're young, just to protect them. Okay, I don't want to see any R-rated movies or, our
Except
son.
for Passion of the Christ.
Yeah. Our son Mark comes home, walks in, and he goes, "That Jurassic Park is awesome." He's 6. Carolyn, like, "Where'd you see that?" "Oh, our youth pastor showed us the movie." I'm going, that was on the list we wouldn't let him see.
Right.
Okay? And it was
Your
that.
former youth pastor showed the movie.
Yeah, that's right. He's another church now. Yeah. But it was interesting because it dawned on me, we're not going to be able to stop things from getting at them within reasons. A bunch of stuff we can. However, I've got to move into a different mode, which is I've got to shape more experiences for them and not spend all of my time letting fear drive me to making sure their whole life is a negative, you can't do anything.
Yes, that's good.
So
That's really
to
good.
wrap this up, if there were one thing you would say to parents, I mean, the central idea of this book, what one thing would you tell every parent in America?
Yeah, I would recognize the fear. I would feel the fear, but then I would make decisions not out of fear, but make decisions out of love.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, this is awesome. A great resource, folks. We'll see you for number 2.